communications, marketing, purpose, based branding, sales and business development, sustainability, and risk management. Now, Manish's work has won notable awards such as the Microsoft President Award, International Green Apple Award, House of Commons, British Parliament SKOCH Blue Economy Silver Award, Public Relations Council of India Silver Award, Niti's On the Job Achievers Award, and Top 100 Storyteller Award, and the Limca Book of Record. He has some good. He's known as Global Goodwill Ambassador, TEDx and motivation speaker. So it's my huge pleasure to hand over the stage and spotlight Mr. Manish Advani to come on stage and give us something about today's topic, that is about how you can be a lifelong learner. So over to you, Mr. Manish, to take us through the session.
So thank you so much, Yash, for the kind introduction. It's an honor and privilege to be part of the 143rd episode of Empowerment Talks. On and off, I've been, watching some of the talks. I mean, it's very inspiring to see the work which you guys have been doing. Usually, we have heard 1+1 is 2, but, you and your founder Faisal's combination 1+1, here it's like 11. So, kudos to you. So happy to be here with you guys this evening. And I'll begin with my presentation, which is on being a lifelong learner. Honestly speaking, when I was growing up as a child, I had no interest in learning. I would like to confess before, beginning my presentation. It took me about almost 15, 20 years to understand the importance of learning. I mean, I used to love to play, love cricket, play, go for skating, go for swimming, football, and I was more into sports than into learning and development. But over the period of time, I realized the value of learning, and I wasn't a good student when I was going in school. I would just somehow manage to clear the class. I mean, I would say I would be one of the um, lowest ranking students in most of the um, kind of most of the classes which I attended. And in my final year, I kind of, skyrocketed. So from being someone who was coming last to being someone who was in top three. And that was mainly because, my college had a tie-up. It got into an agreement with a university in New Jersey, and they had put a condition like, whoever comes in the top, you know, whoever gets good rank will get an opportunity to go and study in the United States. And that was kind of a carrot which, I felt, Abhi, now to I have to do something. And it was only because of, getting an opportunity to study in the US. I kind of, worked as hard as I could. I finally managed to get to a university in United States. But after I got there, I scored good grades. After I graduated, I again lost interest in learning. I felt, whatever best I can do in the job which I got, and I felt, that's about it. I don't need to learn anything else. I'm good with what I know, and I think, with what I know, I can continue in life. But life doesn't work that way, at some point in time, because if you're not continuously learning, you start feeling, especially when you're in mid 30s or early 40s. Most of the people whom I've spoken with in that age group, I've realized many people, come across something called midlife crisis or leader's block. They are faced with a block, and many unfortunately don't have the solution how to get out of that block. And I was fortunate, a few years ago, my boss asked me that, would you like to? I would like you to do few sessions for Tata Group companies. And when I got into, doing sessions, I went and kind of dived deeper into the life of Sir Jamshedji Tata. He's the founder of the Tata Group, which is one of the biggest groups in India. And one thing which stuck to me, I kind of learned, how this gentleman who was a personality who grew up in one of the small towns in India and moved to one of the biggest cities in Mumbai. At that time, it wasn't that big. But from nowhere, I mean, it was a story from, a person who started very small and he became like a tycoon in the industry. And that too in an era which was, in which India was being ruled by British. It wasn't a free country, and there were different rules for organizations which were being built by Indians and different schools for organizations which were run by uh, British. So in that kind of circumstance, this gentleman kind of evolved, and I wanted to know why. What is the secret sauce behind his success? And I realized when I was reading in one of the books which was written on him, it was actually a comic book, and which usually kids read. And I picked up a comic book and I went through that book, and I came across an instruction which his professor gave him when he was in college. And his instruction was, Sir Jamshedji Tata, don't be happy with the knowledge which you're getting in your classroom. And in fact, the exact words were like, academic studies are not the final word in education. Open your minds and you will see learning at every step in your life. And those, like, those few lines kind of, caught my attention. And since then, I started thinking, how should I see learning at every step in my life? How should I see learning everywhere? Because I mean, this is a beautiful statement which I have read. Academic learnings are not the final word in knowledge. Open your mind and you will see knowledge at every step. So what I did, after reading this book, I mean, whichever experience I was having, I would press the pause button after that experience. I would try to reflect. Is there any lesson which I can learn from this experience which I just had? So I would share with you, and I'll start with my daughter. The girl you see on the screen is my daughter. Her name is Nikunja, and I learned a lesson. I mean, CORO has got nothing to do with the carbon dioxide and red oxide. It has got. I will come to that, and it's actually pretty. I mean, the lesson which I learned from her is pretty useful in current times, especially where companies are looking at cost cutting and resource optimization and many of those things. So what she is doing, that's our wardrobe, which you see on the screen. She started doing some creative work on the wardrobe, and when I saw her doing that, initially I got upset, and after a while, as I said, I reflect after every experience. I began to reflect what she is doing, and when I went deeper into what she's doing, I saw that she's teaching me a lesson, a very important lesson. And at that point of time, because and this is during pandemic, which I learned. I mean, I badly wanted a whiteboard in my house, and unfortunately, due to pandemic, there was lockdowns after lockdowns, and I couldn't get a whiteboard because everything was at in a state of kind of in such a state that you couldn't buy anything. And that point, I realized, why not use my wardrobe for as my whiteboard. And those two lessons she taught me, one was cost optimization. I didn't end up spending on whiteboard, and second is resource optimization. So the bottom part of the wardrobe is something which she uses, and the top part is mine. So that's how we had an agreement. When the thing is, she cannot even, because of her height constraints, there's limitation on uh, how much she can do. And but this was a beautiful lesson which came out of a creative mind of a 4-year-old. I felt, creativity is all around us, and kids are the best source of, creativity. And if we want to be creative, I think we can look at kids, and then we can, find solutions to possibly any problem in the world. So that was the first thing which I learned during pandemic. And if we move further, this is what you see on the screen is a cover of a sandwich. And this is a sandwich cover. I was traveling by Indigo Airlines. This was before COVID. And while I was, in the flight, the air hostess asked me, would you like to have anything? And I said, I would love to have a sandwich. And after I was done eating sandwich, I was actually, folding the sandwich wrapper to, make it ready for getting, dumping it in the trash. But when I was, folding this wrapper, I felt, this wrapper is actually talking to me. The sandwich wrapper had 4 words: new day, new me. And I felt this wrapper is questioning me. Mr. Manish Advani, do you have new day every day? And I felt there's a very important lesson which this sandwich wrapper is trying to teach me. Because, years ago when I was working in the Western world, US and Canada, I worked for multiple companies. And one of the most common question I would usually ask people, I mean, this was very common in the West, how is it going, my friend? And you would be surprised to know the most common answer was, same shit, different day. And I used to feel, maybe there's something wrong with organization. Probably there's problem with the cultures because, most of the employees, whom I asked this question, how is it going? The most common answer is same shit, different day. When I, came across the sandwich wrapper, I felt, there's something wrong with us, because we don't bring that newness. I mean, why do we blame organization that if we are experiencing same shit different day? I felt new day, new me. It depends on us whether we want to bring that newness in life. And for that, being a lifelong learner always helps because you are continuously learning. And apart from that continuous learning, it's also important to develop because many organizations, they say, I heard many people in COVID, they said, oh, I had been 100 hours of learning. I said, wow, that's good. But how much did you focus or, paid attention towards development? Because learning is good, but development is something which is crucial. Because if you're learning, it's, for the sake of learning, what happens is you listen from 1 year and you take the lessons which you learned from another year. So I will, towards the end of the presentation, I'll talk about some of the tips in the area of development. So then the third slide, you see an actor on, he's a famous actor from when I was growing up as a child. His name is Pran. I'm not sure how many of you have heard about him. So Pran was a villain in most of the movies in which he acted. And one day while I was, going back from work to home, so I was listening to radio. So while I was listening to radio, the host on the radio was talking about Pran because that day happened to be his birth anniversary. And what I found fascinating was, one of the legends in India in the world of films is Amitabh Bachchan. He's still a legend. He's still one, actor whom everybody looks up to, and one of the highest paid actors, I believe. But in those, I mean, the interview which I was listening to, I mean, the host said, Pran, by the way, was making 5 times more money than Amitabh Bachchan, and he was a villain. Usually, in the movies, what happens is the hero, the main guy, who is the macho man, is the one who makes the premium. But here was the case, the villain is making 5 times more, and I wanted to find out why is he making 5 times more. And I kind of went deeper into his journey, and I realized Pran was such a person that he had eye for talent. So in addition to playing a role of a villain, he would ensure, he would go an extra mile to help his directors and producers get right actors on board who would fit in a particular role. So that was the first P. His name started with P, and he always picked up the right talent. The first P, which I felt Pran made a big difference. The second P was the Pran was always very personal with the actors, and he was so personal that he would bring the best out of every actor, whoever acted in his the movie in which he was acting. And the third P was, Pran would ensure. I mean, at times producers and directors would tell him, Pran, I mean, this scene looks good. Let's move on to the next shot. And Pran would say, I'm not happy with that shot. I want to retake it. So he always ensured that he gives premium quality. Suboptimum work was something which was not in his dictionary. And even, at times producers and directors kind of struggled. We are okay with the shot, but he wasn't, happy. He always felt there's something better I can give. So I felt this PPP formula is such an amazing formula, which I learned just from a radio interview. So, first P is pick the right people. Second is, be personal with people. And the third was, give premium quality in whatever you do. The fourth comes, I mean, the two gentlemen you see with me are, people who work in a store called Khadim in India. And I happen to buy shoes from this store. And these two gentlemen, I entered the store at 9:45 p.m. Little I knew the store closes at 9:30 p.m. And I'm trying to cut story short because it's a very long story due to paucity of time. So I was, when I got inside the store, I realized the store shuts at 9:30, and I am inside the store at 9:45. So I started walking outside the I started walking out, and one of these two gentlemen, Mr. Dilshad, who you see on the left, on left side of the screen, is the guy who said, sir, why are you going? I mean, you didn't find anything interesting. So I said, Dilshad, I believe, I've entered the store at the wrong time. You guys mentioned that 9:30 you shut. So he said, we already have one customer inside the store. Until that customer is there, we are still open, although the timing is 9:30. Store closing time is 9:30. So he says, you can, buy whatever you want to buy. And I started looking for shoes. I was trying to pick up, the best possible shoe. And I didn't realize by then it was 10:15. And at 10:15, what happened is at the counter, the guy whom you see on the right, his name is Rajesh. And at the counter, when we went at the counter, the system stopped working. So Khadim has this system wherein, at 10 p.m. automatically system shuts down. Even if they restart, the system is not, it doesn't work. So I said, Dilshad, I think we wasted time. I'll have to come back again tomorrow. He says, don't worry. I mean, let me see what best I can do. So instead of taking the automated route, he took the manual route. And in the manual process, they had to write every small detail, the SKU number and the other technical details about the shoe. And he went to that extent. And when I went out and, kind of I was feeling guilty that I kind of made them wait till 10:30. And next day I shared this story of, how, and they were always smiling, both of them. You can see the smile on you can feel the smile and the energy. And this is at 10:30 p.m. in the night. And I said, I want to take a picture with both of you. So the next day I shared a story which kind of became viral and many people commented. And coincidentally, that day happened to be the World Retail Day. And these both, Rajesh and Dilshad were felicitated by their CEO. And after a few weeks, when I happened to pass by that store, Dilshad came and, kind of had tears in his eyes. He was very emotional. He said, "Sir, I mean, usually people, since the time I've started working in a store which sells shoes, all I've seen is people's feet. I've always been at feet of everyone because I have to, give them shoes, different shoes to try. And first time, somebody made me sit, made me feel good, made me feel important, and I learned many lessons from this experience, that it's so important to appreciate those smaller things in others. I mean, it creates a wow factor. And because of that one element of appreciation, I got connected with a lot of people in Khadim. I mean, I've got a huge network now established in this one retail chain. And those people are some of the most amazing people. I mean, the trainers who train them, and I get to learn from them. So actually, when you try to extend yourself to others, you actually open the world, which is much bigger for your own self. It's not that you're doing a favor on someone. So this is what I learned from Khadim. You see the guy on the screen is a guy who polishes shoes. And when I got my shoes polished from him, so the guy was, because he is very focused on what he is doing. And after I was done polishing, he was looking for something and he was not able to find a cloth. In India, what they do is usually after they are done polishing the shoes, they ensure they, shine your shoes. And I wasn't sure what is he looking for. And so what he did, he said, sir, can you come a bit closer to me? I said, sure. I mean, and I was like, in my mind, I was wondering why he wants me to come closer to him. When I got closer, what he did is he got his, portion of his shirt and he started shining my shoe. And I was feeling very embarrassed. I said, sir, what are you doing? I mean, please don't do this. I'm okay, if you don't shine my shoes. But, he said, it's okay for you, but it's not okay for me. So, if you look from an external perspective, you might find this guy who is, who's not educated and who is, a very simple guy. But he taught me one of the best lessons in customer centricity, the best lessons in, what it means to be uh, customer centric and to what extent a person should go when it comes to serving the customer. Which was an amazing lesson, but it came from, someone who works at a ground level. So this was a lesson which I learned, and I felt there are lessons which we can learn at every step. We see lessons are there at every step in our life, and I feel for that we have to evolve from hearing to listening. And listening, unfortunately, in the world of information overload, is becoming a forgotten skill. And I feel if people start going beneath the surface, the amazing lessons you will find at every step. And the quote which I shared at the beginning of the presentation, academic learnings are not the final word in the world of knowledge. Open your minds and you will see knowledge everywhere. And that's the quote. And this is outcome of that one quote which I came across. And because of that, Yash talked about, some of the awards which I won, and the credit goes to that quote. I mean, because of which, I got into storytelling and I could see stories at every step. And I feel, the best way to start, becoming a continuous learner, I believe as kids, different parts of the world I've seen, This one game is something which is common across the world, which kids play. That's called name, place, animal, thing. And in this game, we usually, we talk about, okay, you name a person, we do A, B, C, D, E, F. So if the name ends with S, we ask the person to, share some name with S, or place with S, or animal with S, or thing with S. But, I kind of, worked on a game. I felt, can we make this game or turn this game into name, place, animal, thing version 2.0? And the version 2.0 is, instead of learning the names, why don't we attach that names with a lesson? Okay, I like so and so person. I like Pele. I like, it could be Pete Sampras or anyone. I like Maradona or anyone, and I like him because this is a lesson I learned from him. Place could be, I like Japan. I like Dubai. I mean, Dubai is such an amazing place. I mean, we see in such a small place, they have created something wonderful. An animal, I mean, if there's an horse, I mean, today's the world, people are talking about speed, right? If you have the right thing, and if you don't speed up, you might not go too far. Thing I already shared how I learned a lesson from a sandwich cover. So like that, there are many things, which actually convey different kinds of lessons to us. So I felt, the best way to start is, name, place, animal, thing. I don't know if you have time. I think we can play this game with some of you, and I think we'll have interesting time. And at the beginning of the presentation, I also talked about development. So when it comes to development, I strongly feel, if you share the lesson, I don't know if you get these messages. Earlier, we used to get this message that, if you forward this message to 10 people, good luck will come in your life. I feel, if you learn any lesson, if you personally go and share that lesson with 10 people instead of forwarding that one thing to 10 people, you get into conversations with 10 people and you personally speak it, share that presentation, I mean, the lesson which you learned. And when you share with 10 people, good luck will automatically come in your life, because you'll consciously start living that lesson which you share. Because when you do that with 10 people, that lesson remains with you. The whole problem
Manish,
of attention and retention.
how do we go about playing this game? I want to play this game with somebody here.
So when it comes to name, who comes to your mind? Think of one person.
For me, is Elon Musk.
Elon Musk. So what is the lesson you have learned from Elon Musk?
Oh, continuously innovating, like pushing the boundaries of human mind. That's what, he
Wow,
just
that's
thinks of it.
amazing. In shortest period of time, he's got the highest possible valuation, leaving everybody behind who's been in the business for ages.
Yeah.
So wow, that's another. So which place comes to you when we talk about place? Which place? I mean, which is that place which you like the most, and why?
For me, I think it's Dubai. I live in Dubai, but it's all about Dubai. I think Dubai is because of the people. Like so many. There's so cosmopolitan and so many things to learn from the peers around. I don't know whether other country offers such sort of, when you go out on the weekends, you kind of meet so many people from diverse backgrounds, and that is something that I love about Dubai.
Wow, that's, I mean, yeah, that's good to know. At times, when I fly, to different destinations, I usually, if I have a flight which goes via Dubai, I prefer taking that flight so I can, spend some time while I'm in transit. I can exit and I can spend a day or two.
The other two questions I'll ask you: what is the animal thing? Like, which animal do you like?
I would
What are
say
the
horse. I mean, horse. I mean, it's because of the speed, and that's something which we learn, and it is something which is need of the hour. You might have the best thing, but if it's not done with speed, especially in current times, if you don't speed up, you might miss the opportunity. You might miss the board. So along with positioning, speed matters. Speed plays a big role. How quick you can take decision and how quick you can, make your moves. Gone are the days where you can, slow and steady wins the race.
I still remember. So I used to watch polo a lot, and if you watch polo, like how this horses run, so that's where you kind of see the power of the horse as well as the speed of the horse. Like
Yeah.
otherwise,
So,
amazing the way that. And what's the thing that you have learned? That the sandwich thing, or
so sandwich is one thing. There's another. There was on another occasion when I was, flying by another airline. They served me a bottle of. They were serving milkshakes, and the milkshake had a message written on it. Taste the adventure in every sip you take. I mean, that's what the message was, and I was feeling, do I experience or the adventure at every step in life? I mean, without adventure, actually, you lose kind of, interest in life at times. The adventure is something which gives you the kick to move further in life. It actually makes your life exciting. So that message which I got, and that's something which I learned from a thing which was a simple thing, like a milkshake bottle.
Okay, we'll go ahead. Thanks a lot.
So it works. Name place animal thing version
Yeah,
2, and
probably we'll have a
so
eating version of it soon. Great. Yeah, you can go ahead, Manish.
so would anyone like to ask any questions? I believe we're done with 30 minutes, I guess.
Okay, I'll just. Can you please put down your presentation so that we can have the conversation?
Sure.
Thank you, Manish, for this wonderful things that you have told us about how the learning can happen from each and everything that we kind of observe around us, and how we can implement those. And one of the things that I liked about your talk is you went straight into the stories and conveyed it to us, and that is pretty much evident that how you say yourself as a branding and storytelling consultant, because you have to give a certain message, but when you give it through stories and through diverse stories, that kind of relates to us so much that every time now I'm going to observe certain thing, I'm like, what is there to learn from that? What is there that this particular thing want to tell me? So thank you very much for conveying it in such a beautiful manner so that it connects and reaches to us. And kind of, the stories will have those impacts. So we have heard so many impact, but as soon as I'm going to see and enter into any, you know shop that sells shoes, I will straight away I will straight away get back to this story, that this is what Manish told me about how.
Oh my God.
No, no, this happens with me.
No, no, no. So happy to.
So now moving to my first question, and the first question was being a lifelong learner. So as you mentioned about, like, people kind of get into that phase where they are kind of, there's a roadblock or a midlife crisis happens or starting to. Now,
Mhm.
what do you want to say? Because I think with the learning, the thing is, the more you learn, the more you get acquire. You're like, oh my god, there is so much more to learn as well. Because the
Mhm.
more you get, accustomed to the world, that, oh my god, I've not learned this much, there's so much more to learn. And there are so many people who think that I know the best in my profession, I know my personal life is this and it's gonna remain like this. What is more to learn? What can I do? How can I expand my horizons into other things? So how do you go about telling to those people who are there in the audience as well, who kind of think there's no much more to learn into this world?
So what I shared today was, unconventional ways of learning. And, many people, I mean, you want to inspire them in the journey of learning. What I do is, the conventional way of learning, are the technical books which people read. And but if if want to expand the horizon, what I recommend is, you read biographies, and there is a lot of essence people learn when they the essence people can get when they read biographies. And if you want to become someone, if you aspire to become someone, read biographies of people who are at that level, and that's something you going to help you to get there. Because you'll consciously start thinking in that direction, thinking on those lines. And if we see, many people talk about that, many people say, oh, Bill Gates is dropout, and many of these leaders, they say, oh, these guys are dropout from college. But once they are dropouts from college, but they are not dropout from learning. All of them read 5 to 7 hours a day every day, so their learning is almost on continuously they learn. They continuously invest their time in reading and trying to absorb as much knowledge as they can. And that's how you see their mind is, I mean, so creative, and they get new ideas. And these ideas come by reading diverse books, diverse, watching diverse things, meeting people who are uh, thinking very differently than they have ever met.
But that is very wonderfully described, Mr. Manish. That there is dropouts from college, but there is no dropouts from learning. That one line pretty much states like the whole essence of it. And you mentioned about one of the things that was the conventional learning. Okay, I want to go a bit deeper there and want to understand from you, like, if those ways of conventional learnings are not proving good for the society, are not proving good for the life, then why are they scaling, or why have they scaled so much? Like what happened there as a generation 2 or 3 or 4 decades back, that those things have become so permanent in life that every parent want to send their kids to those schools only? What has happened over there? Like why are life learnings not taught in school, and why are the other sort of learnings, or how is that learning related to life learnings? Because if it is not good,
So this
why
is a
do you...
very
Yeah, go ahead.
see, but now the best part is now people have started questioning. I mean, for many years it was like, one person is following another person without even questioning. And people rarely question, if they felt, two people in the neighborhood are doing this thing, probably that's the way to go. And they just followed without even questioning. Now people have started questioning. And that's the best thing which I like about, especially in current times, that people question every possible thing. I won't be surprised to see best of the schools or universities going bankrupt unless they change with changing times. The biggest, kind of, I mean, I have grown up in a culture where, after fifth or sixth grade, we are made to chase numbers. And we leave two friends behind. One is artist and another is storyteller. Almost everybody on the planet. I mean, whichever school you go, you don't even get grades for storytelling and art, right? And the best part is we learn the basics of anything through stories, whether it's even maths. I mean, the numbers we learn through stories, right? So Yash had four apples. Yash gave away two. How many Yash was left with? Yash was left with two because he gave away two. But that basic of math is taught through a story. So the thing is, these two, and now the world is talking about design thinking. They're talking about solving the unsolvable problems in the world. And if you are a design thinker, a lot of opportunities will come your way. And now the design thinking is based on two pillars, which is art and stories, because art and stories help you visualize a big picture. Art and stories help you visualizing the problem and working towards the solution of a problem. So I think these two subjects are rarely given any importance in the test which we give, the entrance test. They test you on maths and your vocabulary. I mean, I struggled actually, when I was preparing for the entrance exam to go to US. I mean, I had to give SAT and the other exams which I gave, and those exams were basically you have to score 1300 minimum. 1300 was considered a good score in those days out of 1600. But what are you tested on? You're tested on vocabulary and math, and you're tested on both the things which you are never going to use in your life unless you become a academician or a professor. I mean, who uses high-end algorithms in day-to-day world today? I don't think 99% population uses that. I mean, 99% of educated population ever uses the algorithms or the algorithms which they solve for those entrance tests or the degrees which they get. How many of those use the vocabulary which they learn? If they start using, they will actually, make the whole conversation very complex. Today, the world is talking about simplifying everything. And so I think if the pattern doesn't change, I won't be surprised if there are more people who drop out of school early in their life, and they, instead of wasting that much money which they waste on getting a degree, they will invest that money either being an entrepreneur, or they would use that money for learning through unconventional ways or other different ways, so that they can cut short the journey.
Yeah, that's very well said. But I still think that there has to be some subtle thing into the conventional learnings. I think it's about the stress management. It's about how you deal about the pressure that is your that exam pressure. How do you go about dealing it? Because once you go into your life, like you grow up in your life, you have to feel those stressful situations. Those are all things. But yeah, that's a very debatable topic, and a lot of things are happening into that space, and a lot of people have been vocal about. I think our government also has started some new forms of learning through NEP, MP schemes, and all sort of things. Another question is, you are you are being a brand and storytelling consultant now. What is that job role all about? Like, what do you do into that space? Do you work with certain brands or advertisement or firms and you guide about them, or how do you say when you say about you're a consultant into that field, and why is it so vocally you talk about it? Because storytelling has been there as an art from decades or centuries, right?
Hmm.
So what is the power of storytelling? Can you just give us a brief about it?
So I'll talk about both brand and story consulting. So when it comes to brand consulting, I'm sure you would agree with me. Many organizations are moving in the direction of content marketing,
True.
right? Bill Gates also made a statement: content is the king. But I feel, if you add emotions, content is the king. I feel emotions is the queen. You need to combine and make it lethal. So why brand consulting is important in current times, especially when many companies are expanding their digital presence, is uh, many a times, even one employee, you have seen many cases where one employee has shared something negative of the organization which he is working for, and it has led to a huge commotion. I've seen companies losing market share in billions of dollars just because one employee is sending out a negative post. But many a times what companies do, they take the shortcut route. They start patching up as much as possible through something called reputation management. And reputation management is something, you're managing your reputation. Managing your reputation, if somebody has posted a lot of negative comments against you, you're managing it by suppressing it through different means, by you know asking people to write positive posts, people who are hired by you, and so that the negativity can go down. But when it comes to brand, instead of doing this, if you work on the cultural aspect, if you dive deeper into the area of culture, you won't have to do this. I mean, why not address the root cause of the problem? If you have a boil on your hand, I mean, you might apply a cream or an ointment, uh, thinking that it will solve the problem. Honestly, it won't solve the problem, because you need an antibiotic to solve that problem which is there, because that problem has got something to do that it can create, it might lead to septicemia or something else. I mean, it might lead to septic if it goes deeper inside. So at times we try to cover the solve the problems using solutions which are not long term, or which will address the root cause of the problem. So now, coming to stories, I mean, many companies have policies, many companies have competencies. They want their employees to be competent. They want their employees to comply with certain number of policies. There is a social media policy, there is an posh policy, prevention of sexual harassment. Now I'm sure there would be another policy in diversity and
Wait.
inclusion. Every organization is talking about it. Now you have these two pages policies which employees are made to sign, that I will comply by this, I'll comply with this, I'll comply with this. My question is, you go and ask the employee after 15 days of signing these policies and other things. Ask him, how much do you recollect? You signed these documents, my dear friend. You signed this policy, that policy. My question to you is, how much do you remember what you signed? And I guarantee you, 9 out of 10 people will say, I hardly remember anything.
Well, I
I
think 9
hardly
out of 10
remember.
have not even read it.
Yeah, they just sign it.
Talking
They
about
just sign
remembering,
it as
they
part
haven't even
of.
read it. Yeah.
So we feel that because we have given them the document, the guy would have a decency to comply with it. Honestly, in the age of information overload, where attention and retention is a challenge, the best way to drive these messages or drive these competencies and policies is through stories. Simplify learning, simplify your messages, simplify your communication. Now, if I ask you a question, what comes to your mind, when you think of crow sitting on a jar?
I think the story, yeah, that story of,
The-
putting that pebbles inside and the water comes up. Like, yeah.
right? But what did you first visualize? You must have seen in your mind, you must have seen the picture of a crow sitting on a jar,
Yeah,
right? And then those thousand words followed. But
true.
when did you hear this story?
I think way back, like 5, 6 years
But
back.
but you still remember, right? That's the power of story. That's the power of stories. So now I
That's
think
so true.
everything can
That's
be
so true.
simplified.
That this is so true. Like that's been the case.
So I don't know why we complicate things instead of simplifying. What works, let's go with something which works, something which is long lasting. If we want people to comply with something for the entire tenure they're going to be with us, why not simplify that compliance process? Rather than having, you will do this, one, two, three, 10 things you will do. And you won't comply with any of those 10 things. And if you simplify through a story, he will never forget. It will always be registered in his mind. I'm have to do this.
That's so
So
true. Now my next question is about, your awards. You have been awarded by so many organizations here and there. So tell us a brief about that journey, and throughout what all things have you accomplished into that sphere that made the organizations give you those awards. A brief about the past decade or 2 decades of your life.
Well, that's an interesting question, something which is close to my heart. I mean, one of the quotes which is, which is very close to my heart is, we make a living by what we get, and we make a life by what we give. And in the past few years, I mean, I would say since 2012, there was a time when I was, feeling that I need to do something for the community. And keeping that in mind, every year I made, kind of tried my best to see what best we can do in terms of, giving back to the society. And the best way I felt was, doing something which is part of my profession. It achieves both professional goals and also you are impacting lives. So I came up with a concept. The first thing which I did was, we looked at education. I felt, most of the youngsters, as you had asked me a question some time ago, that conventional ways of learning, and we have been continuing with that set of learning. And I realized, when I graduated from university, I was confused about my career. I mean, which way to go, I wasn't sure, because there are so many things to do in life. So what we did is, I kind of created a platform wherein I invited some of the leaders who were my clients in the business which I was part of. So we invited them. We asked them for their time. We asked them to volunteer 1 to 2 hours from their life, and those 2 hours they spent with youngsters. So if there was a youngster who wanted to make a career in advertising, so we connected it with a guy who was a legend in advertising. And if somebody wanted to make a career in legal, we connected him with legal person. Somebody wanted to become somebody good in wanted to become someone good in finance, we connected them with right set of people. So with this kind of engagement, we had like 700 plus youngsters. So we realized there are people who are looking for direction. That's why they're taking out their 2 hours to be with these leaders. So in a big room, in a hall, we divided the hall in 30 different areas, and we actually allocated each leader with 30 people, and each leader spent about, exclusive one-on-one with them, explaining them how his, kind of role is. And accordingly, the youngster can take a decision whether he wants to make a career in that field or not.
So
So
what's
that
the
was,
youngster? So when you talk about youngsters, it's like 20 to 30 or like way early, 10, like 15 to 20.
uh, I would say 18 to 20.
Okay.
So these were mainly the leaders who, I mean, youngsters who haven't yet gone into the corporate world.
Okay.
So
Got it.
this was first thing we did, and then we did, there was a lot of thing which was going on. We did a campaign around women empowerment, and we felt, women at times are psychologically made to feel they are weak, especially the
Now, when you say
media.
about we did, is it your corporation did or is it you individually did? Because I want to relate it to the audience. Is it you kind of started something different by yourself that could be an inspiration for the audience, or is it you did something with your corporation as a CSR activity? Or
It was at, I mean, some of these things which I did, some were my own. I mean, like, embarked on, I mean, when I was a child, I mean, there was a period in my life, I was homeless for some time. Life was like a football. And this was after my father passed away when I was only 2 years old. And, me and my mom were living out of different relatives' homes. So it was like, you don't have you're living out of suitcases, basically. So that was, I think, few years we lived like that. And since then I had a dream that, I want to make a house which is sustainable house, wherein, you can live for free. So that's how, kind of I embarked on a pilot kind of a project, a prototype where, we made a prototype of a house using the discarded tender coconut shells. We sun dried it, and we made a house out of it.
oh,
So that was a pet project of mine, which I funded it, and kind of, I led that project. So I felt, and that house had walls where you could grow food in different, because the shells are open, and you can actually grow food, not in large quantities but basic quantities.
I'll pretty
And
much,
we
I want to see the pictures of that house maybe later. If you have it handy, you
sure.
can do it now. But
No,
like,
I'll be more than happy. If you Google Coconut House, Better India, I mean, Better India is one of the biggest sites in India where, they cover stories which are different.
yeah,
And
I regularly read those articles on Better India and all those sort of websites. Yeah.
it was a cover story on Better India, the Coconut House. So that's all. And soon the media gave me a name, the Coconut Man of India. That's how I got the name. But these some of these were my own personal initiatives, and some were corporate initiatives.
So just the last question from my side. I have just one more minute. How are your, so I know you've been quite vocal about creating the community around, so something about empowerment talks, like the way when we connected to you, some beautiful words for this community that we have started and how we have impacted lives and what's the road ahead for us.
No, I like everything what you guys are doing. You know, the book lovers club, and you have a 5 a.m. club, and you have empowerment talks, and at the end of the day, people are at times completely exhausted, and when you have something like empowerment talks, it actually empowers them, and you people can go off to sleep with in the nice mood.
Thank you very much. Is it the house is in Goa?
No, 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 it's not in Goa. We made it in one campus. Actually, there were many students who helped me build this house.
Okay.
So we made it in Mumbai.
Okay. Thank you very much, Manish, for having a wonderful conversation. And thank you very much for all our YouTube audience who is watching. And it was a wonderful conversation with you. And do subscribe our YouTube channel. And thank you very much. It was a wonderful conversation with you. And so I'll just